Okay, we've got DeBoer here from running against Sherry Appleton in the 23rd District. And we'll go around the room and we'll just start with Tom, and he's going to ask the first question.
I'm Tom Anderson. My first question is, what is the function of state government?
The function of state government, well, is to educate our citizens, is to provide public safety, and to create a transportation infrastructure so that we can get around the state, move goods and people, and effectively transport, especially in this state, imports and exports, because it affects the entire nation, the cargo that both comes in and out of the state of Washington. But those are the three primary things. Is education, public safety, and transportation. We try to do a lot of other things in this state. And some we do well and some we don't do so well. But in my way of thinking, those are the things, if the state can handle those three jobs and fully fund and produce students who are smart and provide for the safety of all of us and let us freely move around the state, I think that entrepreneurs will thrive and we'll have a very good business climate in the state.
Okay, why, are you running for the position that you're running for? What, you know, what?
What was the catalyst?
Yes, why did you decide to do that? And if you're elected, then what are your primary goals?
Okay, I've been an elected port commissioner in the Port of Kingston since 2004, and I've dealt with the legislature and the federal government in a lot of situations, just in the growth and management of the Port of Kingston. We're the landlords for Washington State Ferries there. We've argued our way out of an eminent domain takeover from the state of Washington, who wanted to take a piece of Kingston to create a city in front of our town so that all the profits would go into the coffers of Washington State Ferries. And we beat them up and we won. Through that process, I met a lot of people on transportation committees, both in the House and the Senate. In my career in the Coast Guard, I spent nearly 22 years in the Coast Guard, and twice I served in Washington, D.C. I was a congressional liaison to the Surgeon General of the Coast Guard between there and Capitol Hill for various things. I've always been interested in the process. I retired from the Coast Guard, came back home to Washington State, where I was born and raised, and came to Kitsap County, where my family had kind of settled after Bellevue became Bellevue, the Bellevue it is today. And I entered the real estate profession. I actually took classes in this building, and I became a managing broker for a couple offices, and then I started a business. And I operated Olympic Printer Resources for 15 years and sold it to my partnership group a couple of years ago. All along the way, the dealings with the B&O taxes, the labor and industries issues, all of these things kept building up a little bit of frustration in me. I've been the president of the Chamber of Commerce in Kingston. I work with lots of business people, and I see it being more and more difficult for businesses to happen and to stay in Washington State. And if you have a business that's more than just a local regional business, and it's an international business, such as building airplanes, the day that the governor of South Carolina was standing in front of that backhoe in Charleston, which is a town I've lived in, and dug that first hole to build a new airplane plant, was the day that I decided to run for the state legislature. We need to keep the businesses here. We need to educate our students so that businesses are attractive, because we have smart citizens, and we need to have good businesses so that we can afford to educate the smart citizens. And I have sold my business. I think I have a lot left to give in my life, and I decided to take this route in the legislature.
Thank you.
Okay. What do you see as the most critical issues facing government today, and how will you contribute to those solutions? My name is James Carringer.
I think we've met someplace before, James. Yeah. One of the biggest issues facing our state is money. And it's an issue that's facing everyone squarely, and we don't manage it correctly. I think we collect plenty of it through our revenue collecting systems and the state taxes and fees and everything. But I see a lot of, just in the Port of Kingston, in some projects we've done where we've had to go and get permits from various permitting agencies, and you have such a level of, or multi-layered level of permitting, which brings along some redundancies where you may have satisfied all of the A through Z on one permit, and in the middle of there's a couple of things to do, maybe dealing with eelgrass or shoreline management or something, that you've satisfied that agency, and you move along through a couple more layers of bureaucracy, and you get to the same question again, and then that agency doesn't like your answer. It requires you to do further studies or something. It's very expensive. The Port of Kingston, I'm proud to say, is a very fiscally solvent operation. We owe no one a dime. We have over $10 million in assets, and we generate $1 million a year in revenue. We pay our own way for everything we do. For the last 3 years, we have not raised our levy lid at all on the citizens, and we have gained, I think, $5 million in bottom line capital for our port district. We need to manage the money better. And reducing some of the redundancies and maybe consolidating agencies. We have a huge payroll in Olympia and in the outlying parts of state government that serve in all over the state. There's a lot of people doing the same job 2 or 3 times and through different agencies. We need to really take a close look at that, probably get with the auditor to not only follow the money, but the people as well. If we've got, it shouldn't take more than one person to issue a license plate for a car, but I think by the time you get your tabs, you've employed hundreds. And we don't need to do that. And then the question is, where will those people go to work? And I think if we make the state a place that welcomes new business, we will find plenty of places for those people to work. They'll create, it's not something you turn a switch and go overnight. But we really need to refocus the way the state is going and how we're spending the money. And like I said, there's plenty of it. I don't think we need to ask for more. The people are being gouged enough. Every time you turn around, there's a new, it might not be a tax, it's just a fee. It costs you close to $50 to go catch a crab now.
Yeah, right.
And the seasons have been shortened up to Saturday and 2 days in the middle of a week. But and you're limited to 5 instead of 6. There's lots of things that we've done to our citizens to push them back, and they're not getting a fair shake from the government.
If revenue increases become necessary at some future date, what recommendations would you have for revenue sources?
You kind of answered that in the last
Yes,
question.
you did.
I don't think we need to increase revenue. Well,
think so.
the way to increase
That's not my
revenue,
question, Sam.
See, that's,
the real way to increase revenue is to create a fully employed, or nearly so. I don't think fully employed means 100% everybody's working, but if we're at 98 to 99% employed, and we have 1 to 1.5% unemployment, we will have enough people working in the state, making the wages and buying the goods and services that we already tax, and paying the taxes, and that will be the new source of revenue for the government.
Right.
And the smaller government won't need as much.
Hey, we saw Sherry Appleton at a town hall a while back, and she talks a lot about the safety net for the vulnerable among us.
Mhm.
So it's how, and it's always more revenue is needed
Right.
because of that. And we never quite hear about exactly how are we going to generate that revenue when businesses are leaving and so on. But how would you respond to her and to those citizens who are, who consider themselves to be in need of that safety net? How would you respond, and what would you say about a better life in a different vision?
Well, I think, I would bring young guys out of high school into my business because they're, it's not a high-tech thing, it was an assembly line thing. And these guys would be very happy to have a job, and then they learn new things, and they get pay raises, they get rewarded for accomplishing things that they didn't know how to do when they first got there. I think a safety net is fine. I look at the social services. Tragically, we have people who are born that from cradle to grave will need help. And I have friends who have children like that. I have friends who have very old children who are still at the 2 and 3 year, and that's just a fact of life. Those people deserve the best that we can provide for them. I also know I have several friends who are registered nurses now, who at some point in their previous life, 8 to 10 years ago, they were an abused wife, they had some horrible situations, they went to the social service system to get some help. They sought the help, they improved their lot in life, and they came out of it better for it. I think we need to make sure that when you go into that system, that you understand that there's an end game. And I think that President Clinton tried to get that started 18, 20 years ago, and it just never, but people feel better about themselves when they know that they're accomplishing something. There are some who just won't, but perhaps if we started some little enterprise groups within the system where you actually were taking a group who's on assistance and teaching them a business. I don't know if it's, how to do a paper route or how to build wind-producing generators, or generators from wind production. There's assembly things, there's lots of jobs people can do. And I really believe that by and large, if the people who are in the system could see that there's a day in the future, not too far away, that I can be doing things for myself, they'll feel better about themselves, and they'll come out of it, and we won't need to, we always need to be there. We have earthquakes, we have floods, we have all kinds of disasters that displace people. We need to be there for those people, but it needs to be temporary. We need to let them get out of there a little better than they went in there and get going. And I think people will appreciate that by and large. But we will still always have some, and the ones who want to make this a career, it has to be a little tougher job for them to make it a career. They have to maybe be let go for a little while or something, or be out there looking for jobs somehow.